And I know I said Dave Mazzagatti. If you want to start us off, feel free. So the first thing I wanted to ask was, what kind of influenced you to get into martial arts?
I think a lot of it had to do with my dad, honestly. My dad was involved in martial arts in the 80s and 90s. That definitely had a lot to do with it. As far as getting into Muay Thai, I actually had a Muay Thai coach come and live at my house when I was 16 years old. He was here for about 2 months, and I kind of got to start dabbling in Muay Thai with him, and that kind of inspired me to eventually go over to Thailand and have a couple of fights over there.
Okay, nice, nice. So it's kind of good to have like you continuing on that journey that your dad has kind of set too. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Also, I mean, I got bullied, I think, quite a bit in my really younger years, and that is also something that pushed me to really get into martial arts as well. I think kind of having my dad, who already had a background in martial arts, was just like a doorway right into it.
Okay. Yeah, I can actually like we'll definitely touch on that a little bit too, because I have a similar background when I was younger. Definitely bullied a little bit, and even some of like the legendary martial artists that we all know and love, like George St-Pierre, Israel Adesanya, so on and so forth. They've actually been bullied when they were young, and then they eventually became those UFC champions. So we'll definitely touch on that a little bit too. Okay. Chris, how about you? What was
A
your
lot of it
influence?
was from my dad. A lot of the martial arts that he did. So he did a lot of like Chinese martial arts coming from Vietnam. His dad put him in Wing Chun and Kung Fu and stuff like that. And when he tried to put me into it, I did it just because I know my dad liked me doing it. Um, I just wasn't into it. I kept watching clips and seeing clips of these big, bulky dudes just starting to grapple and tear each other apart. And it was one of those early UFC tapes. I stumbled upon them. I don't even remember how. I just remember watching that and like, that's dope. I want to do whatever that they're doing. That looks like way better than this dancey crap my dad is trying to get me into. Um, but for me, I used to train at one of the schools he put me into. It was this karate place off by Clark in Vegas. And upstairs, they had all those grapplers. At the time, I didn't realize it, but it was a lot of the UFC guys, the early day ones. And the academy was the JSEC Academy. So I would always try to sneak up there and watch what they were doing grappling. And kids weren't allowed up there. So every time I did, they shoot us downstairs and go back to your karate class. But that's really what got me into it, is watching those early tapes of the just the Gracie just tearing everybody apart. The early, this stuff like that really got me. A lot of these guys were a lot bigger, and I was so entranced by just Gracie coming in there and destroying these huge dudes, big buff guys, like the big blobby dude just getting destroyed by him too. It was a lot of that stuff, and a lot of the things is just going to the kung fu and like, I don't know if this actually works from when I was a kid.
Okay. So overall, it seems like you've definitely taken a liking to like grappling early on instead of going that more traditional martial arts route.
Yeah, the traditional martial arts was very much pushed on me because of my dad at a young age. So I dropped off of doing that in high school, and then I got into BJJ about 4.5 years ago.
Okay. And I know you mentioned the JSEC Academy, and I'm very curious because I know David Jordan, who also introduced me to like actually training martial arts as my older cousin. We used to train out of a gym called JSEC, and I'm wondering if that's the same one, the one that's owned by like Skipper Kelp, known as like Fight
Yeah,
Capital
it's
now.
that one. So upstairs, they used to have my professor was Henry Coyle, the first one I trained under. So I was there when I was like 6, 5, 6, and downstairs they had the little karate area, and that's where I'd be there down there with my cousin. I'd try to sneak upstairs all the time and try to see these guys and what they were doing, but I would get pushed back downstairs by the guys because that the time they were training. But yeah, that's the one.
Dude, that
By
is
the
amazing.
old, by the 20,
Yeah,
I used to be a 24-hour fitness there too, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
right to the
Yeah,
right of it.
yeah, that's the one. The dudes were upstairs. They were always just beasts, and all you would hear is just thumps when you're downstairs in the karate class.
That sounds like JSEC, bro, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's actually kind of unique. Yeah, knowing that so three of the five actually all started off in like the same kind of proving grounds. I like that. So Dave Jordan, how about you? Tell us about your experience, because like I know what makes yours a little bit more unique is depending on if you view wrestling as a martial art. I personally do. You've technically had like a longer route than any of us, because like you've been doing it ever since you were like 6, 8, something like that.
So I started wrestling when I was 10 years old. I was in the 5th grade, and I was so garbage, bro. But it was just keeping it a stack. I don't look at well, I look at wrestling as a like traditional martial art because it's one of the most important and it's one of the most detailed, just the same as everything else. But started wrestled all the way through high school, like was state champion, all of that stuff. Went to college. It was so boring, bro. I didn't want to fight. I seen the UFC. I was like, man, that's too extra. They're bloody all the time, like doing way too much. But then I started doing jiu-jitsu and it kind of changed my perspective. But one thing that was a little different is I grew up wrestling with Marvin Eastman's son. And he trained at JSEC with Chuck Liddell and, Couture, Tito, all of them. So for me, I got to go up there and I had a different perspective because I went in and I got to train with John Lewis Jiu-Jitsu. He was a co-owner with Skip for JSEC. And I got to train with those guys and see those guys up close. And I was like, man, that looks like fun, like a little bit of a higher side of competition, So I went out, started training, learning the kick. Stand-up was garbage, bro. But, I got to see the stuff that happened in the gym that Chris was talking about that he wanted to see so bad. Me getting in the gym had to be a little later than him because I was around like 09 getting in there. He had to be earlier than that if they still had the karate downstairs. But that's kind of how I started my mixed martial arts career. And, we started doing Muay Thai, and that's primarily where I prefer to train nowadays.
Yeah. Okay. See, well, one thing I do like is like on the call too, we have a good mix between like strikers and grapplers. So I'm looking forward to kind of seeing where that combo leads as well. Because Dave Mazzagatti also has like he has been working with Muay Thai for a good portion of his life, and there might even be some overlap with Master Chan. So I'm going to dig a little deeper into that too.
For sure.
So Will, how about you? What kind of
influence
did you go the BJJ route?
Yeah, so the martial arts experience started when I was like 5. We did the United Studios of Self-Defense thing. There's pictures of me and my brother like in karate gis or whatever, in like a weird pose. And I didn't really enjoy it as a kid. It wasn't like a place that I looked forward to going to, and a lot of it was just like because that was what my brother wanted to do. So the second that he was like done, I never went back either, and I didn't really care. And then when I was like 12, I actually grappled for about 8 months because my brother ran into someone at a 24-hour fitness when he was like messing around with a buddy of his, and some guy like approached them and was like, hey, like I own a gym, you guys should come grapple at my gym or whatever. And it was some hole in the wall on like Decatur and Russell and Decatur, like right down the street, And so because he did it, I went and did it, And I was a little older. He was 17, I was 12. And also then didn't really enjoy it. It wasn't strictly grappling. We were like doing judo throws and stuff like that too. And there was like some striking involved, but it was, I don't know. It wasn't fun, And the day that they made me like buy a gi, it was like so thick and heavy, and I just would get so tired. And so when he was done with that, I never went back either. And then I met my wife, and her brother was sorry, the dogs are barking. Her brother was fighting at Extreme Couture. He still does, but he was then also. And so this is like 4 years ago. And, I met her, and she was training also. And, I met her brother, and he's like, do you train? Like, are you interested? All this stuff. And I was like, oh, no, I did a little bit as a kid. Like, I'm not really into it, And then I went to a Pack the Mac, right? Which is the really big MMA show that we have every year out here.
That's
like
the
Studio 10. That's
amateur series.
Yeah, it's at Thomas and Mack. So I go, and when you go, you sit with everyone from the gym. So it was like my first time meeting a bunch of MMA fighters, right? And everybody was like super nice, like literally every single person. And a lot of them now are my friends, obviously. But just meeting all these guys for the first time, they were like super welcoming, and the vibe was just like nice. And then it just happened that like Extreme Couture also almost perpetually runs like a Groupon, right, for a 3-month membership or whatever. So literally the next day I just bought the Groupon. And so even now there are still a lot of aspects of training MMA that like I'm not really into. But what really hooked me is the same thing that hooks a lot of other people, is like you start grappling for the first time as an adult. And I don't know, like, it's just like that whatever kind of special thing about doing jiu-jitsu that pulls you in, like it just got me too, like whether it's like figuring out the puzzle of another person, trying to do whatever they want to you while you're trying to do what you want to them, or, I don't know, even just like that weird camaraderie that develops, like when you're literally trying to strangle someone, everything about it. I just love it. I love grappling. It's like my only hobby at this point. And so I'll go and, I do a little bit of boxing with my wife because that's what she likes. And I have a really good friend, and we actually do kickboxing in his garage, and that's fun. But like when I'm at the gym, I could care less. I'd rather just go and grapple. And so, yeah, that's where
definitely with the mats. Definitely with the mats grappling.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of like how you mentioned like almost like what I like to call like the human chess aspect of it. So in my opinion, I feel like with BJJ, it's the least natural of all the martial arts. Like it's something that doesn't really come inherently. You have to actually be taught it. In my personal opinion, like I think through nature we're able to learn how to throw a punch, learn how to throw a kick. But we've all kind of seen it where it's like if someone falls on their back, it's just like a panic mode. If somebody hits the ground, it's like, what do I do? Their only natural instinct is to stand back up, since we're naturally bipedal. So I think mentioning that aspect is kind of what brought me into martial arts as well. Because even though I did train a lot of striking, especially with my cousin in terms of like boxing and Muay Thai, my heart is definitely with BJJ. And I'm still a white belt. Like, never really touched gi too much until recently. But yeah, I will say like there's a certain aspect of it where it's an aspect of dominance, but also, like you said, camaraderie that kind of like humbles people, that lets you know that at any given moment we're trained professionals in terms of what we could do just by strangulation, wrapping up limbs, so on and so forth. So I kind of like that you mentioned that aspect. And I also think it's cool that with your wife, it's also kind of expanding your view of like martial arts a little bit more. Even though you're still a grappler at heart, it still gives that little extra kind of try things out a little.
Well, when you come in at 27, 28, and someone's like, yeah, this is how you move around, like when you're throwing punches, like your feet just don't work the same way as when you try and learn it at even 17 or 18, like even now, like my feet don't really work. Like I like just unlocked actual footwork semi-recently, and like cutting angles and doing all that stuff. Like you see it and you're like, wow, this is what I want to do. And then you go and you spar somebody and you're like, I'm just eating punches. Like for a long time, it was like, what is fun about this?
Yeah, I think it's cool that you mentioned that as like an unlockable, like something that you had to unlock, almost like a video game kind of thing. Because then from there, we're able to kind of build on it.
Just got off the clock, just got on my chill. Called on my homie Brent to see what be the deal. What you trying to do? I'm just trying to heal. Hella floated, never bloated's what I'm trying to feel. Hop in the whip and